Hello all, welcome back. The Time to Dice alienates the audience who just came to the channel for the build guides. Has this ever happened to you? You spend weeks planning an epic final boss for your campaign's finale, only for your players to gather around and turn that epic combat that you planned into one that felt like a slog. Endless dice rolls, no tension, and no one remembers it the next week? Well, if so, you're definitely not alone. But what if we could fix that? What if combat wasn't just mechanics and dice rolls, but cinematic, emotional, dare I say, memorable? Today, we're diving into 5 steps to elevate your combat to the next level. And because we're unable to come up with our own ideas around here, without a little bit of assistance from pop culture, we'll be getting help from one of the greatest examples of animated action storytelling ever, Avatar: The Last Airbender. We'll be covering 5 steps to make your combat stick in your head and the heads of your players for years. But the big through line here is that you want to give your players the opportunity to make choices that have significant effects not just on combat, but the story going forward. If I asked you, what is your single favorite memory from a combat that you've had, odds are it's not that time you happen to roll a natural 20 and get massive damage to almost kill a boss. But it might be the time that you braved 4 different reactive strikes, striding past enemies so that you could defeat the enemy about to land a fatal blow on your party's wizard or key NPC. Our goal will be to give players opportunities to make choices that have an impact. But how do we set up combats to allow for these kinds of decisions? I'm glad you asked, because we're about to jump into
Step 1. Goals.
First things first, a good fight needs a good purpose. Not every combat should just be 2 enemies fighting to the death. Avatar constantly is playing around with alternative goals, be it escaping would-be kidnappers, defending a village from collateral damage, or escaping a library before it sinks into the desert, never to be seen again. Take Aang's fight with Zuko in the second episode. Aang isn't just trying to defeat Zuko, he's trying to protect the people who rescued him and escape being kidnapped, and that changes things. The tension comes not from burning through the enemy's health bar, but by trying to accomplish 2 somewhat contrasting goals. If Aang diverts all of his attention to escaping, he could probably do it rather easily, but then the people of the Southern Water Tribe will face Prince Zuko's wrath. This leads to Aang making the crucial choice to give himself up to protect the people that he cares about. Or, take Jet's betrayal. The fights are quick, but the real tension doesn't come from whether or not Jet is going to defeat and kill Avatar Aang. It's whether or not he can stall long enough to stop Aang from preventing the flood. This gives the scene urgency and forces the usually passive Aang to take drastic actions to defeat his foe. Ideally, in a TTRPG setting, you would want to make sure all these settings take place on the same battlefield, so the party can work together to solve a problem, rather than having to split the party across several different scenes. But the point still stands. In your games, try giving your players a timed objective. Maybe they have to hold a bridge for 6 rounds against an overwhelming force, or perhaps recover a stolen artifact before an enemy escapes. Maybe in our exploding dam example, the party has to disarm 5 bombs on the battlefield before the fuses go off. In this instance, Jet doesn't have to worry about depleting the allies' hit points to 0. He can instead rely on trips and grapples to slow down the party.
Step 2. Battlefield terrain.
Avatar fights are almost never in open fields. The world around the characters moves, breaks, falls, sometimes even attacks back. The fight in Wang Shi Tong's library isn't against a giant spirit owl. It's against a crumbling structure that is swallowing the team whole. In a Pathfinder game, every turn would ideally be full of decisions. Stay and fight, or run and try to escape. Help a friend, or grab a skull with important intel. If I were running this campaign in one of my home games, you can be sure that there would be plenty of hazards. Falling bookshelves, pinning down characters, and blocking passageways, collapsing bridges, sand raining from the ceiling, perhaps burying foes or providing concealment. Or, think about the sliding fight in Omashu down the metal slides. Pure chaos, all thanks to the environment. Giving your battlefield features, be it collapsing scaffolding, ice that cracks under pressure, a train that's still moving, or a volcano that's about to blow, changes how players think. It encourages creative solutions and rewards situational awareness. Let the world matter in combat, and it opens up a whole new avenue of decision making to your players.
Step 3. Variety of enemies.
Not every fight should be against 4 goblins with swords. Avatar shows us how much flavor variety of enemies can bring. Ty Lee is terrifying, not because she hits particularly hard, but because she shuts down bending. She forces benders to adapt and throws parties into panic. Mei, on the other hand, is the ultimate zone controller. She can pin you down and pick you off from across the battlefield, or getting close with her daggers for just as lethal results. And Combustion Man is basically walking artillery, 1-hit KO potential from across the map. In your games, you should build enemy teams with different roles. One that grapples, one that focuses on damage, one that supports others, one that's just a glass cannon. If your party is forced with a multitude of identical stat blocks, then the decision to simply take out the closest one isn't really a decision, it's just convenience. This is especially true with boss fights. Don't focus your energy on just making one big bad boss. Build a team of threats. When enemies play differently, players have to think differently, and that creates decision making potential.
Step 4. Test the character's strengths and weaknesses.
Now, this one's important, but it's a bit tricky to pull off without good communication with your players. Your players have strengths. It's time to challenge them. Pathfinder is heroic fantasy. 9 times out of 10, you want your players to feel like the biggest, baddest things around. But being powerful also means overcoming adversity. In Avatar, Aang is an airbending prodigy. But the show constantly puts him in tight caves, surrounded by metal, or fighting someone like Ty Lee, who disables bending. Sokka isn't a bender, so take away his sword, and he has to get creative. Katara's waterbending isn't as useful when she's in the desert and there's no water in sight. And put Toph up against anything that flies, and the blind bandit is, well, just that, blind. It is extremely important that you don't hear this and think, I should punish my players by making their best abilities useless. This is a tip that, 1, is best used in moderation, to let your players use the other options on their character sheet, and 2, should never result in your players feeling like they can't contribute in an encounter. The point is to make your players think differently about how they approach the encounter, not take them out of the game so they can watch their friends have fun for the next 45 minutes without them. If you are taking away something significant from your players, I would suggest giving them something new in return. You take away your rogue's daggers, maybe give them a cool vehicle they can ride around in and ram foes for considerable damage. If you blind the party's archer, considering that your allies point them in the right direction to make shots, but at a penalty. It's important that your players don't feel like you're trying to punish them, but rather encourage unique moments. When the monk can't just stunning strike, they have to think outside the box, and that's how the cool moments happen.
Step 5. Stakes.
The best fights in Avatar aren't just well animated, they're emotionally charged. Final Agni Kai between Zuko and Azula isn't just a duel, it's a tragedy, a fall from grace, a final goodbye between siblings. Aang's final fight is literally about who he is. He wins not by overpowering Ozai, but by staying true to his beliefs and not doing the fatal blow. In your game, you should always ask yourself when designing combats, what does this fight cost the players emotionally? What's at risk besides hit points? Who's watching? What might be lost and gained that can't be represented on their character sheet? Add narrative stakes. Maybe someone's possessed. Maybe a town will fall if they lose. Maybe the villain used to be one of them. It's best to communicate with your players before the start of the game and ask them what stakes they're willing to lose for their character. Are your players willing to let you kill a beloved NPC if it makes for a better story? What about their animal companions? The gang looking for Appa and having to break into the Dialy's super secret base to retrieve him is great storytelling, but it only works if your players are willing to go a while without their animal companion in the first place. Give your players a reason to care. When a fight has weight, it becomes better than good. It becomes legendary. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching and making it to the end of the video. We're trying some new stuff on the channel and we'd really like to know if you guys like it. So please drop any suggestions or critiques in the comments and tell us what you do like and don't like. If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more of our videos. We're going to try to do at least one non-character video a month going forward, but we'll see how it goes and how this is received. So until next time, keep rolling high, and we'll catch you in the next one.